Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and today we're getting an update from Dryden Gold Corp. Dryden's traded on the TSX.V under the ticker DRY and on the OTCQB under the ticker DRYGF. And I'm joined today with the CEO and director of Dryden Gold, Trey Wasser. And Trey, it's great to get you back on the call. It's been a couple months since we've chatted. We have talked with Mara in the interim, but you had a big year in 2024, and you put some news out on January the 7th that really does a great job of highlighting, and we'll put a link to the news down below this interview so people can follow along. But I thought it'd be great to have you on the show and just highlight the big year that you had in 2024 at Dryden. Now, this, for people listening in, is a huge project. It's really three projects on a district scale land package. You've got the Gold Rock Camp, you've got the Lower Manitou that has Sherridon, and you've got the Tremblay Formation that has Hyndman. But a lot of the work was really focused in the Gold Rock Camp last year. But I want to even back up and just focus on how well you did in the capital markets. A lot of companies struggled to raise any money and didn't have any work programs. So maybe just to kick things off, Trey, just focus on how well the team executed in the capital markets last year.
Yeah, thanks, Shad. Thanks for doing this update. We had an exceptional year, and like you mentioned, a very difficult year for most junior explorers, especially at the early stage like us. We just began trading with our TSX.V listing in January of 2024. Concurrent with that listing, we did a $5.1 million RTO financing and then did quite a bit of drilling and followed that up in October with another $5.1 million financing that we had such demand for, we actually had to upsize it 3 times. And then something we've been working on all year was a strategic investment by Centerra Gold. And that was closed in December for $3.38 million. And so that makes us fully financed this year with a $5.8 million exploration budget, as well as a hard dollar treasury to make our final payment to Alamos Gold so that we'll own the property 100%. And of course, do our marketing. And we're literally fully funded on both ends for 2025.
Well, that's a great place to be with a lot of companies still having their hat out, looking for where they're going to get the capital for this year. You guys are set up well, and I think it's significant that you brought in Centerra Gold as a strategic investor in the company. Nice to see a bigger company in there that sees the potential here. And just as a reminder, with Alamos Gold, they had bought Manitou Gold, and so you've been optioning the property and buying that from them, and almost completed with that. Should happen in 2025. Now, this is a huge package, again, lots of different potential in different areas, but a lot of the work, if we kind of vector in on the Gold Rock Camp, happened at the Elora Gold System and also at the Big Master 1 and 2. You got these parallel structures. Let's maybe start with Elora. Elora had a lot of the drill action last year, Trey. What did you learn? Tell us about some of the key intercepts.
Well, we actually, through 2024 drilling, we expanded the types of mineralization to 3 types. And that's where we're drawing this parallel to the Red Lake camp. We, of course, have the quartz veins, and that's what the previous operator focused on. But we also showed mineralization in the sheared volcanics, which is very important on these type of systems, and in the disseminated sulfide ore, which is what we have at Elora, which tends to be much wider, better structures, certainly more mineable widths. And while we've been limited in the drilling we can do there off the patents and have applied for a permit, which we're expecting really any day now, we've been able to test one major structure there on Elora and just had some incredible results. We've gotten down as deep as 240 meters, and once we get the permit, can go deeper on that. But some intercepts of over an ounce, over 5.7 meters. We had a very nice intercept of 8.93 grams over 12.45 meters, very thick intercept. But that even had over an ounce, 32.96 grams over 2.73 meters in the core of that. So very nice widths and grade in this, and we've since drilled some holes late last year, which are just coming out of the lab, should be announced next week, which are a little bit deeper and showing more width too to this structure.
Well, and Trey, it's an interesting predicament that you're in that you're coming at these Elora intercepts from drill pads that are further away. You're drilling about 150, 200 meters over from the side to get into some of these areas. When you get that new permit, just speak to how that will really dial things in for the team. They can drill down into the guts of it and really go deeper into the system. Because if you're making a Red Lake analogy, what we know about Red Lake deposits is they go very deep.
Well, that's exactly right, Shad, is that where we're drilling is off of the very north end of corner of our patented claims where we didn't require a permit. So as I said, we've gone through all the dancing with the First Nations and pretty much gotten them to the point where, they've given us the nod and so we expect that permit any time to where we can cozy up to the vein. But if you can imagine, drilling from 150, 200 meters away from where you would want to be, it limits us in how deep we can go and how shallow we can go. That drill bit is limited in the angle that it can drill. So we've pretty much tapped out there. Like I said, we'll have some more results a little bit deeper, but we're very excited to get up there and prove that. The length of that, both on surface, the strike, we have an existing mine and structure in the new presentation. People can go and see that the old Elora Jubilee mine is just to the north, and this one structure we're working on is starting to look like could be a half a kilometer on surface and a very high grade mineralized core, but mineable grades for an open pit mine over what could be a very large structure.
Well, and Trey, just for people listening in, I will put the figure one of the long section from your presentation underneath this interview so people can see a visual on what you're talking about there. But there's been a lot of historic work done kind of down this chute where you've been drilling into, and you have some of those holes. I think there's still 4 holes yet to come out that you've drilled from last year's program, but you can see also on this image the historic Elora Jubilee mine, and that there's not a lot of drill density there or really between these two structures. So once you get the permit where you can get on top of some of this and drill down into these structures, it's not just the high grade areas that you can test, but also some of the areas in between it just to kind of fill in the color on what could be an emerging whole area of mineralization. And so far, you've drilled down to about 240, 260 meters. The other thing will be exciting is to keep pushing the depth envelope. So there's a good image right to the right of that also shows where this Elora gold structure is relative to the Big Master 1 and 2. You did a little work on Big Master 1 and 2 last year as well, and those are kind of parallel structures, but maybe talk about how this whole area ties together into an area of focus for the company.
Well, if we just stay focused on the Elora for a moment, to the north, about a kilometer away from the structure we're currently drilling on, is the old Laurentian mine, which was the most productive mine in the camp. They mined that at about 14 grams per ton, but only down to 140 meters. Typically these systems, they mining them without, knowing where the structures are going. And once they would hit water, they pretty much just gave up on these things. So we know we've got a good target underneath the Laurentian and a structure there. In between Laurentian and the current structure we're drilling on is another cross structure that is actually where the high grade comes off of the Big Master system. So we've got a good target there. Within this area, and then back on Big Master, we're still doing some work to figure out exactly how those systems pull together. And of course, that Big Master 2 had the incredible intercept of 53,000 grams per ton. So what we're talking about here overall, Chad, is a very rich system. And we think, right now in Gold Rock, we're kind of focused on just showing how the technical team has been able to identify and target these high-grade structures. And, in the drilling last year, they identified 4 new ones. And we think we probably have 3 or 4 more just in this kilometer square area of some very mineable high-grade gold at surface.
Well, and Trey, if we even widen out the scope even further beyond just that area of interest, which is really not a big area, but there's a lot of action there, you still have targets like Mud Lake, and just the overall size of the Gold Rock camp, just that portion of it is immense. Maybe speak to the regional potential.
So the Gold Rock camp is, call it 20 kilometers on strike. 7 kilometers of those are on the patents. But early last year, we did a big acquisition that we call Cross River. That's to the south, makes up the south end of the Gold Rock camp. And then to the north, we did some mapping and brought in some real talented mapper, John Fingus, who identified this area, Mud Lake, which would be the extension of Elora and Big Master that we're working on now. There is some type of a break in the mineralization, but he's been able to identify it to the north. And then down to the south, an area he calls Mosher Bay, which is down on that Cross River ground. So, we've got three main target areas, ultimately just in Gold Rock Camp. But then we also have been doing work and announced this week over on the Hyndman project, which is about 45 kilometers to the east. It's on a major cross structure. It's also right on the Trans-Canada Highway. And it's an area that's really been overlooked, never had any real exploration done on it. Historically was very heavily forested. And the forestry guys came in there and clear cut that. I mean, they literally took every tree off and then a lot of the cover too. So we've been doing mapping and flying the drones over that and some sampling and have some more work to do. But the geophysics are showing 8 or 9 targets on that ground. And then down to the south, we've got the Sherridon project where we just recently added some more ground. And that historically had some good drill results. We brought that core into the core shack and yard and have been reanalyzing and reassaying some of that. But ground samples at Sherridon as high as over 600 grams per ton, and several over 100 grams per ton. So another very rich area here. We've got 70,000 hectares, and we've got some other properties to the north, projects that we're not even talking about yet. So we basically own a district scale camp here that is one of the reasons that we saw that interest from Centerra for that strategic investment.
Yeah, I think it's a great point you're making, Trey, that it's not just Elora or Big Master. It's not just Gold Rock. The fact that you have the Hyndman targets and the Sherridon targets and some of that historic work that was done, not just historic drilling, but even some of the work your team has done with the geophysics and the grab samples and some of those samples coming back with eye-popping grades. So there's really a three-pronged approach here with Gold Rock, Hyndman, and Sherridon, but there's lots of little prongs even within those projects. From a big picture, in 2025, where will the key areas of focus be then? Since you have so many different targets, so many different potential areas to go, where do you really want people focused on 2025 as far as the work program?
Well, look, our goal where we are on and that's again focused back on that Elora and Big Master system in what's really just a 1 kilometer square area there. We think we've got 6 to 8 high grade structures. And the one that we're working on on Elora now, once we can cozy up to the vein there or vein structure and really drill it out from surface to connect the Jubilee mine area and see what we've really got there and start to put hypothetically a pit together, a pit shell around that. And prove it at depth. I think the market will really start to see that the similarities that we're showing to some of the early results from the Campbell and Dickinson mines in the Red Lake, which were the most prolific of the early mines there. And of course, the Campbell mine is where they then at depth made the big discovery. And we think when we can get up on the permitted ground and drill this structure down to 500, maybe a little deeper meters depth, the market's going to start to believe that this is a true Archean system. These systems tend to get better at depth. And whether you look at Kirkland, Red Lake, Timmins, the mines in these areas, these type of systems go down closer to 2 kilometers and probably beyond. I mean, that's just how far some of the older, more mature mines have actually mined down to. So we think once the market starts to believe that we are in a system that's going to go very deep like that, like Red Lake, and then sees all of our potential, it'd be very, we think we'll start to get the recognition stock-wise in the marketplace. And meanwhile, so I would say, just to circle back on your question, I'd say probably 70% of our efforts will go into proving up these systems in the Gold Rock area. And then we've got some more mapping and targeting to do at Mud Lake and Mosher Bay in the Gold Rock camp. And then there will be a big focus on Hyndman, some more sampling over there, and because we've got 9 targets identified there, and more work down on Sherridon. So, somewhere around 30% of our budget will go into more mapping and sampling on Sherridon and Hyndman and these other Gold Rock targets.
Well, it sounds like you got a big year ahead of you, and you still got results coming in from last year that haven't been released to the market yet. So a lot of news on tap for Dryden Gold, and a lot of exploration work set up for the year to come on this district scale land package in Ontario. So we'll keep following along with it here at the KE Report. For those that want to follow along with the news, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you right over to the Dryden Gold website, straight to their news section, where you can sign up for news updates or just follow along with the news as it's released to the wires. Trey, definitely keep us posted as more information hits, and we'll get you guys back on for an update. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Well, thanks, Shad. And just I will add, as far as looking towards a follow-up, is we have scheduled now the drillers, and we will start drilling again at Gold Rock on February 10th. So that's coming right up.